Hello, everyone, and welcome. Think about your day so far. From the coffee you bought to the app you just scrolled through, your life is guided by a kind of invisible architecture, a system of agreements. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that system and really understand the incredible power of contracts.
So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the really big picture, the major forces that shape our society. Then we'll zoom right in on the power of a single contract and figure out what actually makes an agreement stick. And to wrap it all up, we'll take a trip around the globe to see how different legal systems handle these exact same ideas. Let's dive in.
Okay, so before we can even get to contracts, we have to understand the world they live in. See, all of our actions all day long are being shaped by a powerful mix of forces. You can think of them as the unspoken rules we all live by.
Imagine our society is balanced on four big pillars. First, you've got the law. These are the official, written-down rules with real consequences. Next up is the market, guiding our choices through things like price, supply, and demand. Then there are social norms, the unwritten rules from our friends, family, and community that create social pressure. And finally, and this is a big one today, there's technology. The very code behind an app can literally regulate what you can and can't do. Contracts exist right at the intersection of all four of these.
Now here's where it gets really fascinating. Within this huge, complex system of rules, the law actually hands us a tool to create our very own personal rulebook. And yeah, you guessed it, that tool is the contract.
This all comes down to a really core legal idea, private autonomy. It sounds complicated, but it's not. All it means is that the law gives you the power to create your own legal rights and duties with other people. It's like being given the freedom to design your own little corner of the legal universe.
And the main way we do this? The contract. There's this fantastic Latin phrase for it, lex inter partes. It literally means a law between the parties. Just think about that. When you make a contract, you're not just signing a piece of paper, you are co-writing a tiny piece of law that applies only to you and the other people in that agreement.
This simple phrase, a meeting of minds, just perfectly captures the essence of a contract. It's not really about the paper or the ink, it's all about that moment. That specific point in time when two or more people actually align their intentions and create a shared understanding.
And that brings us to a huge myth we have to bust right now. We tend to think of contracts as these long, formal documents with signatures at the bottom. But the truth is, a simple verbal agreement, a classic handshake deal, can be just as legally binding. As long as you have that meeting of the minds, you could have a totally enforceable contract.
So, if it's not always about a signature, what actually makes an agreement legally real and enforceable? Well, it turns out there are three essential keys you have to look for. You can just think of this as a quick checklist. First, existence. Is there a clear offer on the table and a clear acceptance? That meeting of the minds has to be crystal clear. Second, capacity. Are all the people involved legally able to make a deal? They have to be of sound mind and their consent can't be forced or based on some huge mistake. And third, limits. The agreement itself has to be legal. A contract to do something illegal, that's obviously not going to fly. If you can check all three of these boxes, chances are you have a valid contract.
Okay, so we have the three keys to a valid contract. But, and this is a big but, the rules for how you interpret that contract can change dramatically depending on where you are in the world. We're now stepping into the fascinating world of legal families.
To make sense of all the different legal systems out there, experts group them into what they call legal families. It's kind of like a family tree, but for law. Systems that have a common ancestor, like ancient Roman law, get grouped together because they share a similar legal DNA, so to speak. They have a similar structure and a similar way of thinking about problems. And just when you think you've got it, it gets even more layered. There's this concept called legal pluralism. It recognizes that the official law from the government isn't the only game in town. In many places, religious law, local traditions, or community rules can be just as powerful, if not more so, in shaping how people make and keep their promises.
So to make this all super practical, let's just focus on the two biggest legal families on the entire planet. We'll see how their different ways of thinking create a real-life tale of two contracts.
Let's break down the key differences here. On one side, you have common law systems, like in the US and the UK. Here, judges are central. They make law through their decisions, creating precedents. This means contracts have to be incredibly long and detailed to try and cover every single possibility. On the other side, you have civil law systems, which you'll find all over Europe and Latin America. Here, the law is written down in these massive, comprehensive legal codes. This actually lets contracts be much shorter because the code already fills in a lot of the blanks. And this even changes how a courtroom works. Common law is adversarial, with the judge acting as a neutral referee. Civil law is inquisitorial, where the judge is actively involved in investigating the facts of the case.
So, we've gone on quite a journey, from the huge, invisible architecture of social rules all the way down to the nitty-gritty of a single agreement. But it all comes back to that one powerful idea: private autonomy. A contract is so much more than a document. It's you, acting as a lawmaker in your own life. So the final thought I want to leave you with is this: if a contract is a law you write for yourself, what rules will you create? Thanks so much for joining me.